On this super review, let's take a look at the Dudios Zeus TWS and the Zeus Air. Ever since very shortly after the Apple AirPods came out, there have been a slew of these true wireless earbuds that are coming in like the under $50 price range. And I don't really know how good any of them are. The only pair I tried the i7S TWS, and it was just not very good. It was like a $20 product and it felt like a $5 product, frankly. That said, there have been more and more of these things coming out, and I've been just kind of hanging back trying to figure out which is a good one to try out. And that is until Dudios came out with one. A while back, I did a big comparison of a bunch of different Bluetooth headphones, just like the regular sort of around the back of the neck wired headphones. And in that comparison, the headphones that I ended up liking the best were the Dudios Zeus. So when I saw that Dudios was making their own version of these true wireless earbuds, all right, I'm paying attention now. I have a feeling these are gonna be better than the i7S. I sure hope they're better than the i7S. But let's go ahead and unbox them. We'll find out what you get inside either box, and then I'll do a comparison between them. I'll listen to them, see which one sounds better, if there's any sound differences, and I'll see if there's any functionality differences that you need to know about. All right, so we got a pair, not just a pair, we got two pairs, a pair of pairs of Dudios Zeus True Wireless Earbuds. So we've got, over here, we've got the TWS, which stands for True Wireless Stereo. If you've probably seen this name, TWS, on a bunch of different earbuds. That's what it apparently stands for, is True Wireless Stereo. And then over here, we've got the Zeus Air, which are also true wireless stereo earbuds, but they have a little bit different form factor. And I'm curious to see what's the difference between these, not just in form factor, but also in functionality, because there are a lot of things that a device like this can get wrong in terms of functionality, as we saw with the i7S. I'm curious to see how well Dudios has done. Let's do a quick tour of the boxes to see what's different. So on the front of it, one thing that stands out, and you may or may not be able to tell on the camera, but on the Zeus Air, there is like some gold foiling, all right? So that logo right there is in gold, and then this here is in gold. This is in yellow, also looks very nice. In fact, since the last time I opened up some Dudios, they have upped their branding game quite a bit. I'm pretty impressed. So the TWS has got IPX5 waterproofing versus IPX4 on the Air. And the difference, as far as what I can tell, is that IPX4 is waterproof against like splashing. IPX5 is a little bit more resistant to projected water. I don't know how often you plan on getting water projected at you, but maybe that means that these would work better in the shower. Does anyone listen to these things in the shower? Another big difference is that the TWS has a bigger battery, a 500 milliamp hour battery versus 300 milliamp for the Air. And I think a lot of that is gonna come down to the fact that the Air comes in a smaller case, or at least it looks smaller. We'll see if it's actually any smaller. Here in the back, you can kind of see a preview of the different case shapes, right? So the Zeus Air comes in this like pillbox shape, whereas the TWS comes in something a little bit closer to the AirPod case, just something that's like a little square versus something that is long. Yeah, otherwise it looks like they got basically the same features, at least as far as what they claim here. So true wireless, high fidelity sound, true of both of them. Clear voice calling, which you guys know I don't do phone calls. Long lasting playtime, and it's interesting, they actually claimed the same battery life on each one. 3.5 hours on the earbuds with 15 hours extended range using the case. That's about as much as we can find out about these headphones without opening it. So without further ado, let's see what we get inside the Zeus Air as well as in the Zeus TWS. Okay, so inside the box of the Zeus Air, this is what you get. You get this stuff over here, right? You get a quick start guide on a very nice semi-transparent piece of paper. You get some instructions, which I'm gonna stay away from those instructions as best I can. That said, true wireless earbuds tend to be a little bit more complicated than other earbuds, so there's a chance I'm gonna have to dip into that. I'm still gonna try and stay away. You do get a very cute micro USB cable for charging, as well as you get 4 different sizes of ear tips, right? You've got 3 extra pairs here. You got large, medium large, as well as very small. And then pre-installed on the earbuds, you've got mediums. And then you get the case itself, which is very small, very compact. But one thing stands out immediately that's interesting. I don't know if this is good or bad, but one thing stands out is that there's no cover on this thing. So if you wanted to put this in your pocket, it's just gonna sit like this with no cover on it. Could be an issue. You could get a lot of lint and stuff in there. And then the second thing that stands out is how cool these little buds are and how they come out. So you just pull them out like that, which is fairly simple and straightforward. There's no pins that they can, or there's nothing that it's pressing and connecting into. It just sits in there. But very nicely, there are magnets that hold them in place. And I think that's pretty cool. Also worth calling out is that as soon as I pulled these things out of the case, they powered themselves on and started to try and pair. So that was one issue I had with the i7s TWS, was that the whole process of taking them out of the case and connecting them to your phone was a very clumsy process and definitely not as good as you would get on like Apple AirPods. However, it looks like the Dudios have done it better. All right, so that's everything you get inside the Zeus Air. Let's go ahead and put them aside and find out what we get in the TWS. Okay, and then what do you get in the box of the Zeus TWS? It's a pretty similar assortment. One thing actually worth pointing out right now, between these two, aside from the fact that you cannot adjust volume on these, but you can on these, one big difference is the price. So the Zeus Air is about 35 bucks on Amazon right now, and the Zeus TWS is about 50 bucks, so it's quite a bit more expensive. Interestingly, you get basically the same stuff in the box. You get instructions, but you don't get the transparent piece of paper with quick start. You do get a very cute micro USB cable. You get extra tips, but interestingly, you only get 3 tips. You get a large, you get a small, and you get the mediums pre-installed. There's no in-between size like there are here. Another thing worth pointing out is that the tips are a little bit different shape than any other tips I've seen on in-ear monitors. So these have just sort of like a flat end to them. Oh, it's interesting, huh? And then you get the headphone case with the earbuds. And unlike the Air, the TWS does have a lid. And this is very compact. I think that's gonna have no problem fitting inside the average person's pocket. In terms of pocketability, I would say that I think the shape of the Zeus Air has got maybe a slight advantage, but the fact that this has a lid on it is gonna make it, I think, a lot better in a pocket. I think lint is gonna be less of a problem here. And then like the Zeus Air, these things pop out pretty simply. There's no pins that they press into. They're little contacts, and these things magnetically fit inside. So it's pretty simple to get them in and out. But because of the lid, it is a little bit more difficult to get these out versus these. These pop out super easy. The lid just means that you're reaching around the lid a little bit, and it's a little bit more of a challenge. Apart from that, there's not much difference that stands out. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and hook these up to my phone, give them a listening test, and give them really a functionality test. Because frankly, look, sound is important with any headphone. Sound is maybe the most important thing, but I think with this sort of device that functionality can very quickly become the most important thing if the functionality isn't good. I have a feeling these are gonna be pretty good, or at least better than the i7s, but we'll find out. So I'll go ahead and give them a test, and I'll come back and I'll let you know what are the differences between them. Maybe where should you be spending your 35 bucks, or should you be spending 50 bucks on the Zeus TWS? All right, so I've been spending some time with both of these Dudios Bluetooth wireless headphones, trying to figure out which one is the better buy, but also is either of them a good buy? And spoiler, yeah, I think both of them are pretty good buys, but I do have a preference myself. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about them in terms of three main categories. We're gonna talk about the general form of these two different headphones. We're gonna talk about the functionality of these two different headphones, and then we'll talk about the sound, and then I'll give you a little wrap-up conclusion of them. All right, in terms of general form, there's some obvious physical differences if you're looking at them, right? The TWS comes in a case with a lid, and it's a square shaped. The Air does not have a lid, and it's a small little pill shape. Personally, I like the small, compact size of the Air, but I was worried that the lack of the lid was gonna cause two issues. And one of those issues was dust and lint and stuff getting in there, which I still think I'm a little bit worried about, but I'm not super worried about it. The other issue that I was worried about without having a lid is that the buds might fall out. You know, dropping these things into a backpack or something like that. I didn't want to have to be fishing around for the buds after I got to my destination, but the good news is I don't have to worry about that. So these buds are just sitting in here magnetically, and watch this. I can't shake them out. So yeah, the lack of lid on here, not really an issue for me. And if anything, it makes these a little bit easier to get in and out. So that's going for it. Both of these fit into a pocket pretty well, but I do think that the Air fits into my pocket a little bit better. It does have a slight odd, kind of embarrassing problem that I'll show you on camera. Does that bother you? I don't know. It doesn't really bother me. I just kind of have to avoid positioning this in my pocket a certain way. But that's something to watch out for with the Air. And the build quality on them is pretty similar, which is to say that they're both pretty good. That said, the TWS does have a couple of finishing touches on it that makes it feel like a little bit more premium of a product. And really that comes down to just like this nice glossy black on the outside, as well as rubberized buttons versus the hard plastic buttons on the Dudios Airs. Now in terms of general functionality, they're both pretty good and they're both pretty similar in a lot of ways, but there are some differences. We'll start with the similarities. So in terms of battery life, they've both got 3.5 hours of battery life, which might not sound that great. You know, if you're looking at other traditionally wired Bluetooth headphones, they usually have between 6 to 8 hours of battery life. So 3.5 doesn't sound that great, but both of these headphones will start recharging when you put them back into the case, and the cases each provide an additional 15 hours of battery life. So if you need something that's gonna last you all day, you just leave them in your ears and listen all day, these are not gonna necessarily do the trick. But if you're commonly like listening to music for 20, 30 minutes at a time, putting them away, listening to music, putting them away, these things are gonna last you not just all day, but probably a couple of days. Now the general functionality that these things do really well that makes this form factor work for this where it didn't work for some of the other cheaper wireless earbuds that I've tried before is that both of these headphones will automatically power on when you take them out of the case. They'll automatically turn on, they'll connect to each other, and then they'll connect to your phone. And then when you take them out of your ears, you put them away, you plug them back in the case, they automatically power off, they save battery and start recharging automatically. You don't have to press any button on them. And that is a big deal. That makes this form factor, in my opinion, that makes this form factor really, really usable. About the only automatic function that these don't have that like Apple AirPods have is that they won't pause when you take them out of your ear. That said, there is a button on either ear that you can just click when you remove it to pause it manually. So you know what? I'm cool with that. On the topic of buttons, they both have the same button configuration. Each ear has one button. But the two different sets actually have a little bit different behavior. On the Zeus Airs, clicking the button once will toggle pause and play, and then double clicking the button will either skip forward a track or skip backward a track depending on which ear you clicked. The TWS, it starts out similar. A single click will toggle pause and play, but a double click is actually going to increase volume or decrease volume, again depending on which ear you use. And if you want to skip tracks, you press and hold the button for a long press essentially. So that's one big difference between these two is that the TWS, you can adjust volume with the headset. And then with the Airs, if you want to adjust volume, you're going to have to use your phone. The good news with both of these headphones is that there is no beeping at all when you change the volume. Thank goodness. Thank you, Dudios. I tested the Bluetooth range on both of these headphones and both did a really good job. I was able to get plenty of distance between me and my phone, had a wall in between me well before there was any interference. So they're both doing a really good job. That said, one thing that's worth calling out is that with the TWS, I did have more issues with the Bluetooth than I did with the Airs. And those issues were only when I was taking them out of the case and having them reconnect to my phone. There were occasions where instead of reconnecting to my phone, they would just go into pairing mode. Part of that I blame on my Pixel because I've been having some Bluetooth issues lately with that phone, but still I didn't have any issues with the Zeus Air, which just suggests to me that the Zeus Air's Bluetooth is a little bit less finicky and a little bit less fragile. So that's worth calling out. In terms of sound quality, both of these are doing a surprisingly good job. I thought that coming away from a traditionally wired Bluetooth earbud, I'd be sacrificing something, and really I'm not sacrificing anything. These things both sound really good. I think most people are gonna prefer the sound out of the TWS. It's just got a little bit more bass, a little bit more treble, a little bit more of that traditional V shape. The Zeus Airs are a little bit flatter sounding, but don't let the word flat sound like a bad thing. I think both of these headphones sound surprisingly good. Maybe the bigger difference is that the TWS gets quite a bit louder than the Zeus Air. And for me, that's not so much a big deal because I think both of these headphones do a really good job at sound isolation. So you don't have to be pumping up the volume to be competing with outside sounds. But it is worth calling out that if you like your music loud, you might prefer the TWS. So if I were to rate these two different headphones, let's start with the TWS. And I'd give the TWS a solid 4 stars out of 5. This thing, it sounds great, it's got great functionality. A little bit of issues with Bluetooth that I had. Again, that could just be my phone, but I'm not sure. I didn't have the issues with here, so that's a small hesitation that I have with the TWS. Again, I think a lot of people are gonna prefer the sound out of the TWS, but your mileage may vary. For the Zeus Air, I'm gonna give these things a solid 5 stars out of 5. These things really surprised me with how good they are. The functionality, the connection, everything was essentially flawless. And I was really surprised that it was that good for a $35 truly wireless headphone. The sound is plenty good for me. I like the smaller form factor. Yeah, I'm just really impressed with the Zeus Airs. I personally prefer the Zeus Air, but you can't go wrong with the TWS either. And if you're interested in checking out either of them, of course, I've got links to Amazon in the description down below. While you're down there, you can hit the like button for the video. If you liked the video, you can subscribe to the channel, and then I'll see you in the next super review.